Hi, this is Dave Jewell from Shoe Ranger, here to talk to you about the Saucony Kinvara 7. So every once in a while a shoe comes out that just totally surprises me, and 7 years ago Saucony introduced the Kinvara, and what made it so great is its simplification. In other words, simplification in running shoes, one-piece midsole. Before that, everybody was layering stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff to build a running shoe. So Saucony came out with a one-piece midsole. It's an injected midsole. Injected EVA is very different than compression molded. Injected EVA is livelier, it's more consistent, but there's limitations to it, and I won't get into all the limitations to it. So the limitations usually cause brands to stay away from it, but Saucony decided to go into using injected EVA, and then it had a fit that worked great for athletes. The results from 7 years ago to today, the Saucony Kinvara is a brand at the Ironman World Championships Kona shoe count. It is the #1 shoe in the count, and it has been for a number of years. It is a brand at that place, and that is a really discerning customer. That is someone who knows it is going to be hot. That ground temperature is well over 100 degrees. It's going to be hot, and they need a shoe that works great for them. And the Kinvara is the shoe of choice. But that's not just the only place. If you go to the Boston Marathon, the New York City Marathon, the LA Marathon, the Kinvara is huge in terms of people wearing it. And the reason is because it's the simplification. It's very light. It has a lot of cushion for something that is that light, has a lot of support for something that light, and it just simply works. The Kinvara 7 builds on that idea. So let's get into it. Alright, overall, the fit on the new Kinvara 7 is just slightly wider in the midfoot than the Kinvara 6. Just slightly. It's not dramatic, but it is slightly wider, and the toe box is slightly taller, so there's a little bit more room right up here in the toe box. So that's a first review on fit. I do think the heel fit on the new Kinvara 7 is a lot better than in the 6. It's a little bit deeper, and it's got a little bit more contour to it, so I think it's a better fit overall. The other interesting note on the difference between the Kinvara 6 and Kinvara 7. Now we have to remember that this Kinvara 6 has some miles built into it, so it's a little bit more broken in, obviously, than the brand new shoe that I just ran in. But watch this shoe flex. Okay, so that's Kinvara 6. Now, bring the Kinvara 7 over and try to do the same thing. And you can see that it doesn't flex nearly as much. It is a little bit more flexible than when it started at the start of the run, but after one run it's not nearly as flexible as what that Kinvara 6 is. We will continue to monitor that to see if it breaks in further. Alright, let's talk about Saucony and Kinvara 7. Kinvara came out 7 or 8 years ago. It was the perfect running shoe. You won't hear me say that too often. In fact, you'll rarely ever hear me say that. But it was the perfect running shoe. It went to old world, old school manufacturing, one-piece midsole, no midfoot bridge, flat bottom, flexible. Just a simple, pure, like, put it on and go run in it. Don't have to think about it. Don't have to hear it. Just a great piece of work from Saucony. The Kinvara 7 is no different. It's the same idea of a one-piece midsole, quiet ride, works for so many different types of runners, feels like a racing flat but isn't a racing flat kind of running shoe. Alright, let's get into a little bit of the tech part. Fit. Overall, the Saucony Kinvara has gone through stages where it had a little bit wider fit, had a little narrower fit. The Kinvara 6 previous had a little bit narrower fit. The 7 is back to the original Saucony Kinvara fit. A little bit wider in the forefoot. Accommodating in the midfoot. And not tight anywhere. So I think that's for me, I prefer the fit of the 6, I got to admit. But I can adjust fit using socks. But for everybody else who needs that wider, more accommodating fit, you'll enjoy the Kinvara 7. It's going to fit you better. So it's back to the fit that Kinvara is known for. Function. The great thing about the Kinvara is what it is. It's wide heel to forefoot. So in other words, it's got a very wide base. There's no sculpting out in the midfoot. There's no midfoot bridge, so there's no sculpting out. So it's a very wide base and it's flat. So those two things offer you a great deal of support in the shoe, in a neutral shoe. So most neutral shoes, if they're sculpted out, they tend to be less supportive. This one's not sculpted out and it's flat, so the ground adds a bit of support. It is a super supportive neutral shoe. So that function is still there and it's awesome. Feel wise, Saucony's done some things that, first off, the injected midsole, one-piece midsole is still there. So that general dead quiet, just super responsive feel is still there. So no change to that. Where there is a change is in the forefoot. The iconic triangle lugs are gone. These iconic triangle lugs that Saucony has been known for years. When you run on a dirt trail and you look down and you see the shoe, the feet that were there before you, Saucony stands out. Nike stands out. Some other brands don't stand out. The triangle lugs that made Saucony stand out are gone. Now, does that mean anything? Does it matter that they don't stand out on a dirt trail? No. But what matters is the triangle lugs are functional. When you land on that, or when you put pressure on that, it depresses into the midsole. So that's a feel. That's a feel that you get when you run in the shoe. The other thing is that if I run in a shoe with triangle lugs and you run in a shoe with triangle lugs, we're going to get a different feel. And the reason is because we land in the forefoot differently, with different pressure, different amounts of pressure on different parts of the foot. The lugs work with that. Because they're independent, they depress wherever we put the pressure. So if I put the pressure on the outside, I still get the action of the lugs. If you depress in the midsole, in the midfoot, you get the action of all the lugs. Even if you roll to the inside, you're going to get actions of the lugs. The new midsole design, or new outsole design, does away with lugs. And it's not just the Kinvara. It started with the Triumph ISO. The original Triumph ISO had triangle lugs. The ISO 2 does not. I would have loved to have been in that room at Saucony when they made that decision, because it is a distinct decision to do away with the lugs. And it's because the innovation group came out with a better outsole pattern. Only time will tell if it's better, because the triangle lugs are really, really good. Only time will tell. So that's a change. The other change, and I think it's due to the outsole design, with the lugs, or lugs and no lugs. But the other change is, if you, in the beginning of the video, there was no flex in the Kinvara 7. Lots of flex in the Kinvara 6, but no flex in the Kinvara 7. So after 150, 200 miles, there is some flex in the Kinvara 7. It's different than the 6. The 6 is a distinct point of flex, where this one is not a distinct point of flex. Only time will tell if that feels better to you. Even if you may not even know. You may feel something in the Kinvara 7 that you didn't feel in the 6 and the previous Kinvaras. You may not even know that it is the forefoot. Maybe it's not the forefoot. What I'm saying though is, it's a big change, and some of you are going to feel that change, but I don't know who that is, and neither do you. So let's get to some grading. On fit, the Kinvara 7 gets a 5. It's back to its original fit, which is very accommodating to lots of different feet. And that's the key. The more accommodating a shoe is, the better it is for all the runners. And you Kinvara fans have spoken out clearly when the Kinvara goes narrow. And the 6 was a little bit narrower. The 7 is back to the original Kinvara fit, so it gets a 7. On feel, it gets a 4, and that's because I'm not convinced that doing away with the lugs is going to make you happy. But it still feels great. So it gets a 4. On function, it gets a 5. Again, flat bottom, wide base of support, gives this shoe a 5. It's super lightweight. And to have that kind of support in a super lightweight shoe is awesome. For creativity, I'm going back to the original Kinvara. It gets a 5. When it was in the market, when it came out in the market, shoes were still being overbuilt. They had midfoot shanks. They had really thick rubber outer soles. And the Kinvara came out and it was different. It did away with the midfoot shank. Dead flat bottom, wide base. Very minimal outer sole. So for that, the Kinvara, I'm still giving it a 5 on creativity. On the update, I'm giving it a 4. And again, it's that forefoot. Only time will tell. But the forefoot is not the same as the Kinvara 6. Might be a great thing. Might be the best thing ever to happen to the Kinvara. But it might be a mistake. Only time will tell. But it is a different feeling forefoot. Alright, if you like these reviews, go on to Facebook /Shoe Ranger, like us there, follow us on Twitter, leave comments, we'll get back to you. You can follow me at SuperDaveJewel on Instagram. I love to talk about shoes all the time. Hope everybody has a great day running. Talk to you later.